Yo, how's it going? So on today's 5-minute ministry, I actually had a phone call with my daughter, and I was talking with her about some stuff, and I said, well, you know, if I was just going to give advice to somebody like 5 generations from now, you know what I mean, like, you know, the DeGraff in 2125, and say this kid's, you know, 20 years old, male or female, whatever, maybe one of each, maybe 7 of each, who knows? Okay, but like, if I was just going to give them advice on how to live their life, you know what I mean, what would that look like? Like, if I was going to write a book and hand it down through the generations to advise my blood relatives, you know what I mean, like my kinfolk, my kids, what would that look like? You know what I mean? And I was on the phone with my daughter, and I was like, you know, in your downtime on the job or whatever else like that, she got a part-time job at a place where, you know, it's open 24 hours, but probably shouldn't be because there's nobody doing anything at night. But anyway, there's downtime is the point. So I said, just start writing that book. Just start writing that book. And then after, you know, you've done this for a month of Sundays or whatever, get your list, and then you could Google search the Torah for similar topics. And what you're going to find is like everything on your list that you think is worthwhile, you'll find in the Bible, in the Mosaic Law, which is actually the instructions, which I consider God's opinion on how to act appropriately at His house, which we call earth, because He made it. He owns the earth, it is His. So, His house, His rules. Just like your private property, where you have rules at your house. Okay, so that makes it perspective-wise digestible. Like, as I'm chewing on it, I'm kicking it around, I'm thinking, you know, the cogwheel's turning on this deal. Okay, well, I'd probably like, you know, try to live peacefully. And then if I thought about that a little bit more, I'd be like, well, to live peacefully, you probably don't want to sleep with the neighbor's wife. Because, like, you know, adultery bad. And, you know, all these other things, just like blatantly obvious stuff, you know, wash your hands. If you have somebody working on your property, pay them. You know, if you call the plumber and say, hey, the toilet's clogged, and he comes over and unclogs it, pay him what he's done. If you're running a factory and you decide everybody's getting paid on the 1st and the 15th, and that's the way you run your payroll, because that makes sense to you, by God, pay him when it's time to pay him. And stuff like that, you know what I mean? And when you read the law, it's like, okay, yeah, that is the same as what he said. But then there's stuff like, if he's kindling sticks together to make a fire on the Sabbath, and this dude died. And then you look at the law, and it's like rest. On the 7th day, rest. And like, if you break this law, you die. And it's like, this is very, very harsh. Okay? But in my list of rules that are not nearly as severe, I'm shooting for 100 years. What if I was going to push this boundaries out 7,000 years? 6,000, 7,000 years. Okay? How many generations is that? And if there's a little wiggle room in this boundary, it's going to get off course. And after a while, it might course correct. And, you know, this thing's wobbling, right? And it's, you know, going this way, and it's wobbling, going this way, whatever. We see how culture and society changes just in the last 30 years, which is one generation. If we're going 5 generations, we're thinking, you know, 100, 120 years. Then when you take it to a level of 6,000 years, and without very sturdy, strict, clear, and present boundaries, do this, do not do that, boundaries. Okay, now we know how to have accountability. Hey, this is severe accountability we're seeing in the Bible. This dude is gathering wood to make a fire on the Sabbath gets killed. Why is it that harsh? I guarantee you this. I see Johnny die over this deal. I'm gonna have a freaking rick of wood. You know what I mean? Like Monday through Thursday, buddy, I'm stacking some wood. You know? I see people get together and throw rocks at Jimmy because he slept with Johnny's wife, Sally. Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I ain't gonna do that anyway, but still, you know what I mean? Then you get into some of this other stuff, and you start thinking about it, it makes sense because it's long term, over 7,000 years. You know what I mean? This is the rules for how to live right, and if you don't, you're worthless and get thrown in hell. And then you're not on the new earth because you were not granted to eat from the tree of life. So by trying to keep the law, I'm going to mess it up. But thanks to Jesus, I don't have to die. So I'm covered in Jesus' blood. Jesus died for me, so I can have some grace on this deal. But I should still do the best I can to adhere to the law, because it is the best way to live, according to the manufacturer's specifications, which that striving will produce a Christ-like life. And then, because I'm not doing things I should not do, I'm not paying fines or going to prison. So, if I am doing what I'm supposed to do, paying people on time, they're not mad, burning my house down. You know, and now my cat's still alive because my house did not burn down. So even though I don't realize I got this great blessing because Psycho Arsonist Plumber got paid on time instead of having a grudge burning my house to the ground, I get to enjoy my cat. But I don't realize that until yonder, when it's revealed to me, and somebody comes, God's telling me all the things of my life, and it'll be like, see where that got saved? That gets us back into that footsteps picture where there's two sets of footprints and then one, and the guy's like, well, every time it got hard, there's only one set of footprints. And Jesus is like, yeah, well, there's two because I'm walking with you, and then when there's only one in the hard spot, that's because that's when I was carrying you. Like, you wasn't even walking through it yourself, he was carrying you. Well, how did Jesus carry me through the hard time? Well, sometimes I never had the hard time to begin with because I did the right thing. And sometimes in the midst of doing the right thing, he had to carry me because even though the wrong happened to me, it put me in a position for this other good stuff to happen, which I may or may not be aware of until yonder. So I have to trust God. So it's easier for me to trust God when I see that the kingdom is right now. And the law does make sense if you put it to the test of time. You see what I'm saying? So time. Like, does it need to be so harsh for someone, you know, if they commit a certain sin, that they should die? And our culture might not agree with that, but it's literally the best. It is literally the best over the course of 6,000-7,000 years. All right, Rock Hill. That's today's ministry.